let's get started by kind of talking about meditation as a whole, like meditation 101, right? So when we think about meditation, usually the word that kind of pops into our mind is relaxing or zoning out or de-stress, right? All these things related to basically being more calm, relaxing. So this is a huge entry point into meditation. But a lot of times when, at least I found this when I started learning meditation a long time ago, that the reasons for what is actually happening here that's making me more calm is a bit nebulous. Right? So I wanted to start by just kind of talking a little bit about that because I think it's really important. And so meditation is really a technique of familiarizing your mind with something, right? Which is a very general kind of definition, but really you can do anything with meditation. It's all, the technique is the same regardless of what you're trying to achieve, right? So if we think about something you're super familiar with, sometimes I'll use the example of tying your shoe. And so you can tie your shoe in the dark with your eyes closed, upside down. It's very easy at this point, I would imagine, for you to tie your shoe. Right? Now, when you were a wee little kiddo back in the day, not the case. In fact, quite complex. Perhaps the most complex is it looks like a Rubik's Cube, probably. Is 2 strings. What do I do? So what happened in between tying your shoe being very difficult, requiring a lot of mental effort to try to figure it out, and it being very easy for you, right? All that really happened was practice, right? Familiarizing your mind and your body with the mechanics of tying your shoe to the point where it starts to come more easily to you. That is really the benefit of becoming familiar with something. The more familiar you are with something, the easier it comes to you, right? You can see that with riding a bike or walking, anything. And the same is true with your mind, with feelings, emotions, mind states, thoughts. This is usually what we are focusing on with meditation, but the same is true. So if you think about relaxation, meditation doesn't equal relaxation. Right? It's not like pulling relaxation from the ether or something like that. What it's doing is it's teaching you to become familiar with your relaxed self. Right? Each one of you there has a relaxed self. And sometimes it's hard to have it come up, especially when we really want it to, and we're annoyed at something. But it's there. You can all remember some times that you were very calm or relaxed or feeling very peaceful. It's in there, right? And so meditation is designed to have you become so familiar with being relaxed, say, that relaxation starts to come more naturally to you, just like tying your shoe, just like driving a car, just like riding a bike, right? It's the same exact concept. Right? So this works both ways. So this sounds great. You're like, I definitely want to be relaxed more and have it come naturally to me. That'd be wonderful. But it also works with kind of negative mind states, right? So if you think about something like anger, very easy to get angry, wouldn't you say? You don't have to somebody says something that annoys you, you don't have to try to get angry, right? It just happens. Now, being patient, that's something we got to try a little bit, at least me personally, right? Now, all that means is that you've had a lot of practice getting annoyed, and you haven't had as much practice being patient. It doesn't mean that you are incapable of being patient or you're inherently angry or something like that, right? It's just your mind has become accustomed to doing one thing or the other. So what we're going to do here today is start to give you choice, start to teach you some techniques to give you choice over what you want your mind to be familiar with. Do you want your mind to be familiar with anger? No. Do we want it to be familiar with patience? Yeah, that sounds awesome. With relaxation? Yeah, that sounds great, right? So there's a little analogy I like to use, and I think it's helpful when we're just getting started with meditation, to kind of illustrate what we're going to be doing. So if you think about you're on a nature walk, right? You come across a lake, very still and beautiful, and there's no wind or anything. You could see and describe the reflection in that lake pretty easily, right? You could say, oh, there's the mountains and the grass and whatnot. And then if it started to rain a little bit, what would happen to that reflection? It becomes less clear, right? The reflection is still there. It's just being obscured slightly. And if it really starts to kind of downpour with rain and wind, the reflection might appear to be gone, but it's not. It's always there. It's being obscured by the raindrops. So your mind is exactly like this. Your mind by default is very calm, very peaceful, thinking reasonably about your problems, right? Like a still lake. And all of the stress, the anxiety, the worries, the things that are pulling for our attention, doing this at work, doing this at home, all this stuff, they're sort of like raindrops, and it's making it hard for you to find that relaxed self. It's still there, just like the reflection in the lake. It's always there. Your ability to be relaxed is always there. We just got to become more familiar with going and getting it. That way we can go and get it even in times when it's pretty difficult. Right? Cool. So how are we going to do this? We're going to start by learning how to declutter our mind a little bit, basically clearing away some of those raindrops. And then once we do that, we have a nice, calm, clear mind. There's a lot of things we can use our calm, clear mind to do. But first, we got to relax a little bit, right? So we're going to do something called single-pointed concentration. Fancy. It just means focusing on one thing. Now, in the course of your day, would you say that you focus more on one thing or multiple things? Right? We're amazing multitaskers. Why? Because we do it all day long. We've had incredible amounts of practice multitasking, right? So much so that your mind almost has trouble not multitasking because it's used to doing that, right? So with what we're going to do here is we are going to not multitask. We are going to focus exclusively on one thing. And we're going to use our breath for breathing meditation. We're going to focus so exclusively on our breath that all of the other things that are pulling for our attention, they're going to kind of fade away a little bit. Similar if you've ever been in the zone, working on a project or exercising, we lose track of time. We don't hear people call our names and stuff like that, right? Irlene, thanks for being here. So it's the same kind of concept as that cliche phrase of being in the zone, but we're going to start to train ourselves to be able to do this intentionally, right? And what we're doing is breathing meditation. Maybe you've heard about this before. It's become a lot more common, which is awesome. And breathing meditation is a great entry point into meditation as a whole because your breath is always with you. So if you become let's say you become really, really adept at using your breath to relax a little bit. Wow. Well, that's great because you now feel like you can do this anywhere, right? Because you always have your breath with you, right? Very important aspect of meditation that you don't need specific conditions in order to relax, right? You don't need to go retreat to some forest or cave or mountain or something like that, or have a Zen garden. You don't need any of that, right? Just need a little bit of time, some patience, effort, and your breath, and you can learn how to have relaxation come to you more naturally. All right? So we're going to do a breathing meditation now, and it's going to be about 5 minutes long, give or take. Meditation does not require you to do it for hours on end. A lot of times people think that. No. As long as you're having consistent practice, you're going to see gains. So we're going to do about 5 minutes, and instructionally, breathing meditation is pretty straightforward. I'm going to guide us, so you'll be listening to what I'm saying, but we're going to make a choice. We're going to choose to focus single-pointedly on our breath, And then whenever you notice that your attention's not single pointedly focused on your breath, maybe you're thinking about what you're having for dinner later, or what do you have to do for work tomorrow, or whatever. Whenever you notice you've drifted a bit, you're just going to be like, not right now, to those thoughts, and then you're going to guide your focus back to breathing. That's it. Choose to focus on your breath. Notice when your attention drifts, bring your attention back. That is the practice of meditation, this technique. You're training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. Cool? Let's do it. All right. So step one is make sure you're relatively comfortable. You don't have to be the most comfortable you've ever been. But if you're sitting on like a stool or something, your back's really hurting, maybe find a better back support. It doesn't matter if you're in a chair, if you're sitting on the floor. Some people like to sit on a cushion, or you can lay down. You had a long day, go lay down. It's fine. Doesn't matter. There's no perfect way to sit. But just make sure you're relatively comfortable. That way you're not too fixated on that. All right. And you can go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. First things first, let's check in. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? In this exact moment. Happy, sad, tired, energetic. Doesn't matter. You're just practicing noticing. Practicing noticing what your mind is up to. This is called mindfulness, a word you may have heard before. Mindfulness is an active awareness of your thoughts, moment to moment, so that you can respond to those thoughts skillfully. So just take a moment and check in. And having done that, you can now make a choice. You can choose to focus single-pointedly on your breath, breathing in and out very gently and very naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths. You do not need to forcefully exhale the air. Just breathe normally in and out. And allow yourself to relax a little bit. Smooth, gentle breathing in and out. And at some point you may notice your attention drifting. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier today. Or maybe you're thinking about something that you have to do later after this class ends. Whenever you notice that this has happened, we can just gently say, not right now, to those thoughts. We'll get to them later. And then purposefully, intentionally guide your focus back to breathing. In, out. Gently and naturally. See if you can follow each moment of your breath. Follow the air as it enters your nose and then follow that air as it exits. Just enjoy being here, breathing in this moment, this moment, this moment, this moment. And keep bringing your attention back to your breath whenever it drifts. This process of choosing to focus exclusively on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being able to bring your attention back to breathing. That is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. You're training your mind to relax, to be calm, to become intimately familiar with its peaceful state. How wonderful. So just for the next couple of moments, continue to breathe in and out gently, naturally, and just enjoy sitting here. You have nothing else to do, nowhere else to be, just here, breathing. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. How we doing? So if that was your first time, maybe you found that to be kind of challenging, right? I remember when I first started, and honestly, even still, sometimes my mind is all over the place, right? I'm like, we're focusing on my breath, and your mind's like, no. That's not happening. We're focusing on work. We're focusing on whatever, right? So what's going on here is that you're starting to see what your mind is familiar with, right? We have let our mind do whatever it wants, think whatever it wants for a very long time. And so sometimes when we try to reel that in, the mind doesn't like to cooperate. So it's just going to take some practice. We have to start to teach our mind to be okay with focusing on one thing, and also kind of look forward to focusing on one thing. Because right now, I know it's happening. Sometimes you're like, well, this is a waste of my time. I have so many things to do, right? This is kind of a trick, right? Our mind thinks that focusing on our breath here pleasantly is not important, right? So we have to teach our mind that it is. Cool. Any questions, thoughts, reflections on anything we've discussed so far or this breathing meditation? Now's a good time to ask. And if not, I'm going to move on to part 2 of our anxiety discussion. So part 1 was last week. So if you missed it, no big deal. First of all, you can go and watch it. All my old videos are up there. But I'll do a quick little kind of very, very short recap of where we are now, because the kind of methods we're going to use to help our anxiety, they're kind of sequential, all right? Okay, so last week we focused on 2 things, really. One is we had a pretty big discussion about what our mind is doing when it's anxious, right? Because right now it feels like we're fine and then we're not fine. We're fine and then we're anxious, right? But there's a lot of little warning signs that go off in between being fine and being anxious. And so the more the better we can get at kind of identifying those, it'll be easier for us to catch our anxiety and catch it early, right? That was kind of the second thing we really focused on, which I kind of sum up with the word recognition or recognize. We're trying to recognize when we're getting anxious earlier on in the process. Why? Because anxiety is kind of like a fire, right? If we catch it early, little water on that thing, boom, no big deal. Easy to manage. Now, if we don't notice that there's a fire, what happens? It starts to spread, right? And it's still possible to put the fire out, but it is a lot more difficult than if it's one little flame. So this is the same with our anxiety or with anger or any sort of negative mind state. The earlier we can catch it, the easier it's going to be for us to do something about it, right? And that, what we're kind of getting at is mindfulness, right? And we talked about that a little bit in our meditation right at the beginning, kind of monitoring what your mind is up to. Why? So you can respond to what your mind is up to. So that was last week. So if that sounds interesting to you, go check that out. So now, let's say we've gotten a little bit better of recognizing when we're getting anxious early, right? Maybe we're starting to recognize when we're going down the rabbit hole of rumination, like, and then this is going to happen, and then what if this happens, right? Maybe we're starting to catch ourselves doing that, which is good. We want to catch ourselves doing that. Great. Now what? We've noticed that we're getting anxious. Now what? What do we do about it? How do we kind of fight back a little bit? Mary, you felt relaxed. Your mind drifted. Focusing back on the breath is helpful and work to keep my mind calmer. Been feeling the anxiety lately. Need this. Thanks. So that's great. And this is exactly where you want to be, Mary. So sometimes when we start meditating, we have very high expectations about what we will be doing, right? And those expectations usually are something like, I will never get distracted. Your mind's going to get distracted. I've been meditating a very long time. My mind still gets distracted. Meditation isn't about never getting distracted. It's about being really good at noticing when you're getting distracted and then being able to get yourself back on track, right? So that's awesome. That's exactly where you want to be. Good. So we're going to talk about two ways, methods that are intimately linked with meditation as a way of lessening your anxious mind, right? Not eradicating anxiety, over time you can get to that point, but right now we're going to try to manage it a little bit better, right? So the first of these two important steps is acceptance. And we don't like that word at all. Right? So what does this mean? Now, acceptance doesn't mean like, fine, I'm anxious, whatever, I guess kind of just like gritting your teeth and getting through it. No. So it's not inaction either, right? What we're doing with accepting when we're anxious is we are trying to be okay with the fact that this is happening right now. We don't have to like being anxious, right? But it's happening, right? And we need to accept that that's happening. Because sometimes what we'll do is be like, oh no, not again. I wish this would just go away. Why won't this go away, right? What are we doing? We're wishing it away. We're trying to wish this away, right? Instead of being like, you know what? I'm feeling a little anxious. Let me use some of the tools that I've learned to help, right? So acceptance is a huge first step in kind of fighting back when we catch ourselves getting anxious. And this is really difficult at first. I'm just gonna put it out there, right? Because anxiety is very uncomfortable. We don't like even acknowledging it. And I'm talking from experience because I got into meditation for anxiety. I still have clinical anxiety and depression. And so I know this is difficult. I know it, right? Leslie, how can you avoid being distracted by pain? Ooh, good one. So Leslie, I do a whole class on chronic pain management. I don't know if I did it recently, but if you dig back a little bit further, that I have a video for that, and these are kind of similar. But yeah, when you have a chronic pain, or like I had a really bad kind of phobia or anxiety about itching, which is, it's a physical kind of sensation. It's like kind of like a pain, right? Um, it can be very distracting. It can be very difficult, right? So I would recommend you checking out that chronic pain video, because I go into more depth about that. They're related, but I don't want to get too off topic. But it's a really great question, right? Cool. Early, my mind is everywhere at night, and sometimes you can't sleep. Oh, so Erlene, I do also a class on using meditation to help with sleep, but just very briefly, even doing this kind of short breathing meditation that we did is going to start to get your mind used to focusing on one thing, and then naturally all those busy thoughts that keep you awake, they're going to fade away, right? So you can start by practicing doing a little bit of breathing meditation before you go to bed. See how that goes, right? Cool. Great questions. Thanks. Okay. So this concept of acceptance is difficult for us, I know, but it's really important, because what's happening if we don't accept when we're getting anxious is we are furthering this connection between this equals bad, I hate this equals bad, this is ruining my life. All these kind of negative things are starting to be attached to this one scenario, whether it's, everyone has a different trigger for the things that are making them anxious, right? So what we want to do is kind of sever this kind of label just a little bit, right? So we recognize when we're getting anxious, hopefully early on, and then we're gonna do a practice of what I call patient acceptance, right? So how do we do this, right? How do we start to practice acceptance a little bit? So the first thing I always recommend is changing the way that we are talking about our anxiety or yourself, right, when this is happening. So normally, right, when we get anxious, we'll just be like, oh no, not again, not please, not this, how long this is going to last, all these things, right? So the next time that we're getting anxious, what if we're like, okay, you know what? I am experiencing some anxious thoughts, and that's okay. We're going to say it. Actually say it. Now, you don't have to believe it. You probably won't believe it at first. Over time, it'll, because at first you'll be like, no, it's not correct. But we have to train ourselves to kind of say these things. That way it becomes a little bit more normal, right? And then even a step further is disconnecting self from anxious thoughts, right? So you could even say, instead of I'm experiencing some anxious thoughts and that's okay, you know what? My mind is feeling a little anxious. Oh, so now what's the difference between those? It's subtle, but it's very important. We've removed I, all right? So instead of saying I am feeling anxious, my mind is experiencing anxious thoughts, right? What this is going to help with is kind of our self-image of being an anxious person, right? Sometimes when we deal with anxiety for so long, we feel it's kind of inherent to us, right? But that's not true, right? You are not inherently an anxious person, right? And it's something that you can work on. And this is a really great first step towards doing that, right? My mind is feeling a little anxious, and that's okay. Just say it. You don't have to believe it, right? You don't have to say it out loud. If you're around other people, you do not need to proclaim that out loud. You can just say it in the old noggin. Cool. So we recognize that we're getting anxious. We take a moment and just kind of accept that it's happening. We don't have to like it, but we're saying, you know what? My mind's feeling a little anxious right now. That's okay. Now, what do we do? The next step to lessen the power that your anxiety has over you with meditation is to create space. Now, I'm talking about mental space, but we can look at an example of actual physical space, distance, to kind of see how this works. I always like to use this example because it's something that actually happened to me. My wife and I have vacationed in Montana a lot. It's very beautiful, and they call it Big Sky Country. You know why? Because the sky is so big. You can see for miles. It's wild. So we were one time just kind of, sitting outside, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and we're looking way, way, way off in the distance. And we can see like a mountain range, and over the mountain range are these very dark storm clouds, like dark, gray storm clouds. And we can even see little flashes of lightning, right? There was a thunder lightning storm over this mountain range, miles and miles away from us. What do you think our reaction was? We were like, cool. We were sitting there, it's sunny, there's not even any wind, and we're looking at this wild, storm off in the distance. Now, a lightning storm is a pretty scary thing. Bolts of lightning and energy are coming down from the sky and, zapping things. It's a pretty chaotic and scary thing, right? And my wife and I are looking at this, scary kind of thing with a level of fascination and interest, right? Hey, did you just see that lightning bolt? Hey, look, I think the clouds are getting even darker, right? There's no like fear or anything there for us, right? Now, over time, as we were sitting there, those clouds, they started to get a little bit closer to us, Wind started to pick up, rustling some of the wheatgrass, and it's getting a little closer. And then eventually we're like, whoa, hey, we got to go inside. We're not safe here, right? We're no longer saying this is very cool. We are saying we are afraid and we need to seek shelter, right? So what's the difference between these reactions? When it's far away, less scary. When it's close, scary, right? So when the storm clouds are way off in the distance, we're kind of looking at it with a different lens than when it's over our head. So the same thing, this is physical distance, right? That made us have a different reaction. The same thing is true with mental space, mental distance, right? When anxiety is happening, the storm cloud is over our head. And so we are panicking, we're fearful, we're trying to seek kind of mental shelter. And one method to help with this is to create some space between ourselves and the storm, ourselves and our anxious thoughts, right? Creating mental space. Cool? Now, hold on, I have to get rid of this little spam thing. Cool. Okay. So how do we go about doing this? Well, there's two ways I like to recommend doing this. One is we can do breathing meditation, right? So what are we doing when we're doing breathing meditation? We are choosing to focus on one thing, right? Noticing when our mind drifts, bringing it back. And by virtue of doing that, some of the other things that are normally storm clouds right over here, they start to move away a little bit. It's as if they fade a little bit, right? Just a little. Doesn't have to be completely gone, but it helps create mental space, right? We're making a choice we're making a choice to focus on something, and by virtue of that, we're creating some mental space between other things that are normally bouncing around our mind, right? But you're not always going to be able to do breathing meditation, I know. And, sometimes, especially when you're getting started, breathing meditation is something new for you. You don't feel very comfortable doing it all the time. So there's another technique, too, that I like to always present here. And this is what I'll call kind of like a perspective shift activity, right? So think about, have you ever thought about how you give really good advice to your friends, but, sometimes you don't really give great advice to yourself, right? Like when a friend has a problem, they're like, hey, I got a problem at work, all right? This is what's going on. And they're like, I don't know what to do. There's this and there's this. And you're sitting there, you're like, yeah. I think you should do this. Yeah. It's very clear. and when you're on the outside kind of looking in, right? Why? Because the storm's over their head, not yours. They're having a problem at work. You're looking at the storm from back here, right? So what we can do is, you never follow your own advice. We all don't. And that's because when the cloud's here, it's harder for us to think clearly and objectively about things, right? So this perspective shift activity is really good at forcing us to do that, Janelle. So what we're going to do is, let's say I'm just going to use this as an example. Let's say we have an event coming up and we're having some anxiety about it, some social anxiety about going to the event, right? Maybe we start to think, what if I say something dumb? I'll embarrass myself. What if, people don't like me there? Whatever, right? It's just an example. So if we're starting to feel that way, one thing we can do is take a moment and really try to imagine your best friend, whoever your best friend is, in this exact same situation, right? It's the same event, the same people will be there, everything is exactly the same. Only they're the ones experiencing this anxiety, right? They're the ones going to this event, right? And then what advice would you give them? What advice would you give them? All right. And everyone's going to have a little bit of a different advice, but I can pretty much guarantee you that the advice will be way more reasonable, clear-headed, and objective than what we would probably tell ourselves is going to happen, right? And so this is a really good technique, not just for anxiety, but for anger, for any sort of negative mental state, to just kind of check yourself. Is my response the best response for me right now? I don't know. Maybe you'll determine that it is. But this is a great way to check. And it's also a great way to create this mental space. We're kind of using this activity to do the storm cloud thing, right? Just using our imagination. Cool? Okay. So that's where I'd like to stop for today. So just a quick recap. The 3 kind of things we're going to do is try to recognize when we're getting anxious earlier. A reminder, if you didn't catch last class, you can check that out. And then we're going to accept my mind is experiencing some anxious thoughts. That's okay. You say it. Don't have to believe it just yet. That'll come in time. And then we're going to create some space. Maybe that's with breathing meditation. Maybe that's with doing this kind of perspective shift. Maybe it's going for a walk, right? We're going to try to do something to create some mental space between you and your anxious thoughts. Cool? Okay. So now I'd like to do a meditation that kind of touches on a couple of these things, right? This is a fan favorite. It's called the mountain meditation. And so we're going to start by doing a little bit of breathing meditation just to kind of settle back in, because we've been doing a lot of talking. Your mind's been thinking a lot. Now we want to just kind of chill. So we'll start very similar to before. We'll do a little bit of breathing, and then I'm going to guide us through what's called a mountain meditation. It's just like a visualization. But you just kind of follow along with what I'm saying and enjoy it. Enjoy relaxing. All right? Cool. Okay. So go ahead and make sure you're comfy again. And go ahead and close your eyes. And I'm going to guide us through another meditation. Okay. Quickly just check in again. How are you feeling now? Different? The same? Whatever. Doesn't matter. We're just noticing how we're feeling. Now we have a little more insight into why we're doing this. We're practicing noticing what our mind is up to, so we can catch these thoughts early. Maybe we can catch our anxiety a little bit earlier, making it a little bit easier to manage. So having checked in, you can now once again, just for a little while, turn your focus to your breath, breathing in and out gently and naturally. Following each moment of your breath. Paying attention to the air as it moves into your nose, sits and exits. A moment-to-moment awareness of breathing in and out. And if your attention drifts, no big deal. You can just say, not right now, to those thoughts. Right now, we're focusing on breathing in and out. Single-pointedly focused on breathing. Enjoying sitting here, enjoying breathing. Breathing in and out gently, naturally. As you begin to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion, keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as you need to. You are a meditator. You are training your mind to relax, to be calm, to enjoy something as simple as breathing in and out. So having spent a little bit of time relaxing with our breath, we can now use that slightly more relaxed mind state to think about something, to contemplate. And today, we're going to do a mountain meditation, which focuses on resilience and acceptance, two important aspects of learning to overcome our anxious thoughts. So you can just follow along with what I'm saying. I'd like you to bring to mind a mountain. The most grand, majestic mountain you could possibly imagine. Just picture it. Just imagine it. And it's summertime on your mountain. In the summer, the leaves are green, the mountainsides are filled with wildflowers and teeming with life. The rivers flowing heartily. All the animals enjoying the mountain. And as time passes, the season changes. Summer turns to autumn. The leaves change color. Some of them fall off. It's getting colder. The flowers are starting to wilt a bit. Some of the animals are getting ready to hibernate. The external conditions of the mountain have changed. But at the mountain's core, nothing has changed. Everything remains exactly as it was in summer. Autumn turns to winter, and with winter comes very harsh conditions on the mountain. High winds, snow, all the leaves and greenery has died off. The rivers have frozen over. The animals are hibernating. The external conditions of the mountain have changed. But inside, at the mountain's core, nothing has changed. The same as it was in autumn, the same as it was in summer. The core of the mountain is immovable. Winter turns to spring, the snow thaws. Greenery, life, flowers, leaves, they start to come back to the mountainside. The rivers are flowing again. But in spring, sometimes there are thunderstorms, and perhaps one day there is a big thunderstorm on the mountain, and a bolt of lightning strikes the side of the mountain, scarring it. The mountain's external conditions have changed. It's bearing the scars of the year past. But inside, at the mountain's core, everything remains exactly as it always was. Calm, still, immovable. We need to be like mountains. We need to recognize that we are like mountains. Over the years, our external conditions will change. Maybe we'll be feeling sad. Maybe we'll be anxious. Maybe we'll be happy. Maybe we'll be angry. Whatever. These things will happen, but these things are like passing seasons, passing weather. They are not us. They do not have the power to change who we are at our core. At our core, we are calm, peaceful, kind, generous. That is who you are. That is your core. And it is immovable, just like the mountain. So just for the next couple of moments, I'd like you to just imagine yourself as a mountain. You and the mountain are becoming one. And you're taking on the amazing resilience that a mountain's core has. You are a mountain. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Return to your human form. Cool. So that was the mountain meditation. And meditation is kind of like a two-part thing. We always try to start by relaxing a little bit with breathing meditation, right? Yes, Janelle, I will send that to you. So we start by relaxing, right? We did a little breathing meditation, and then we relaxed a little bit, and we're going to do something else, right? We're going to use our relaxed mind purposefully to do something. And this time we did a little bit of a visualization, and the goal here, right? Hopefully it was clear while we were doing it, but the goal is to recognize that just like the mountain is experiencing varying conditions, harsh, not ideal, very nice, not ideal, right? Round and around. That's kind of us, right? Sometimes we're really happy. Sometimes we're sad. Sometimes we're anxious. Sometimes we're calm, right? It's all sort of changing weather, right? But the changing weather doesn't have the power to affect who you are, right? You are not your anxiety, right? You are not your depression. You are not your loneliness. You are you, right? So this is a really good meditation, I find, for helping with anxiety, particularly with this kind of acceptance, resilience phase of it, right? Where we need to believe that we're able to do something about this, right? Cool. So hopefully you found that to be enjoyable or cool or thought-provoking. You also don't need to use mountains. I don't know, maybe you don't like mountains. You like lakes. You could do lake. It's the same thing. I just like mountains, so I use mountains. Cool. So that's our class for today. Janelle, the mountain is a reminder that there is calm and peace within somewhere. Yes, amazing, Janelle. Yes, bravo. A+. Amazing, right? It's in there, right? Just got to go get it, right? Exactly. Perfect. Carol, thank you so much, right? Oh, you like the mountain meditation. Thanks. I'm glad. Patrick, thank you. That's very meaningful coming from you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So if you had a good experience, great. I'm happy to hear that. Come on back. I do this every week. Now, I will not be doing this next week because my brother is coming to town. I haven't seen him in a long time. We're going to go skiing and we're going to hang out. So next week you have off. Right now, the following week I'm back on. So no live stream next week, but a good opportunity for you to go check out the previous class if you haven't. And I'll be back the following week. Right. Also, I saw a couple people subscribe to the YouTube channel during the stream. Thank you. That's awesome. It means a lot to me. All right. It means so much to me. It helps me become more visible and get more people to kind of experience this. So if you feel comfortable subscribing to the YouTube channel, that would be awesome. Big smile on my face. And also you get some reminders when I'm going live with a meditation or when you can look at all the old videos that I have up there. So thank you if you choose to do that. And also I teach one-on-ones. This is the main kind of core of my business. And I think one-on-one classes are phenomenal because we get to really focus on something that's pertinent to you. Maybe you don't have a lot of anxiety, right? Awesome. I'm jealous. But maybe you're here for a different reason. We can focus on that. So if you are interested in maybe thinking about a one-on-one, or I also do stuff with work, all right? Maybe you want to bring me into the old office virtually. I mean, it's kind of win-win for you, right? You get to meditate and you also get to not do work. So whether you want to do some sort of group thing, corporate or whatnot, or a one-on-one, I'm going to put my email in the chat here. Just email me and we'll find some time to get together. I do everything over Zoom. It's very casual, very laid back, in case you can't tell. So here's my email, Keith@meditationbreaks.com. I will type it now. I'm typing it. I've spelled it correctly, hopefully. Okay, great. Neotaka, I hope I'm saying that right. Cool name. I appreciate the mountain meditation. Yeah, it's one of my favorites, and it seems to resonate with a lot of people, which is kind of cool. I think it's a really powerful thing to realize that you can overcome the things that are happening right around you, right? And viewing the things that are happening as passing storms rather than a cloud that's permanently over your head, right? Awesome. Irma, how do you find my videos? So on my YouTube channel, I'll put that in the chat here as well. YouTube.com/. Go there. YouTube.com/meditation breaks. All my old videos are up there. There's a lot of them. You can see my hair growing in real time from short to long. So there's a lot of stuff up there. I know some people were talking about chronic pain up there, or sleep problems. It's up there, right? So if live's awesome because we can chat and talk about questions you have. But if you are interested in those other topics, you can go check those out, right? Cool. G.A. Gardner, once again, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Mary, thank you so much. I'll miss you guys next week, but hopefully this puts you in a nice frame of mind to enjoy the next week, and good luck with practicing meditation. It is a practice. So if you can do it once a day, even for 30 seconds, amazing. You're going to start to see some benefits. Cool? All right. Thank you guys so much. I love teaching. Couldn't do that without you. Thanks for being here. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. All right. Take care.